What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to what I'm sure you can tell is a very sophisticated and scientifically accurate display comparison. Just joking. This is going to be between three panels that I use on a daily that are fantastic for content creation and consumption. To my far right, I've got an LG. This is their 32 UK50TW. I know the name is a mouthful. It's a 4K display. It's extremely color accurate, very sharp, and obviously from LG, one of the best display makers in the game. Right in the center, we have the M1 iPad Pro with its mini LED display. I know the display looks like it's off, but I promise it's not. You can tap it right there and you can see the menu options come right up. One thing I do want to mention about the LG is this is a standard panel, so what I'm going to be using this for is to compare HDR versus non-HDR versus, of course, mini LED HDR. And as you can already tell, the black levels on the M1 are just out of this world. The display, once again, looks like it's off. And then last but certainly not least, we have the HP U32 4K monitor here. This is also a 32-inch monitor, and it's color calibrated, so it's very color accurate, very sharp as well. So we're going to be looking at all three of them. I got the same video loaded up here, and I'll be kind of doing a play-by-play. I love the mini LED display on the iPad, but you can see some blooming. I'm not sure how that's picking up on camera, but some of the menu elements, you're seeing a little bit of haloing around it. But you know, some people will think that's a worthy trade-off, well worth it for what you're getting in terms of black levels. So I'm going to start this up, try and get them all to start at the same time here, which is going to be tricky. The M1 Mac Mini, I was about to say the M1 iPad Pro. The M1 Mac Mini is running both of these 32-inch 4K displays, so it's not only running this same video for black levels in HDR, but it's also running them at full 4K on two 4K monitors, as where the M1 iPad Pro is not a 4K display. So it's definitely not having to push the pixels, but for color, this should do the trick. So once again, I'm going to try and start these roughly at the same time. So I think the first thing that we can tell right here, let's pause this for a second and give the other videos a second to catch up. All right, so I think the first thing that we can tell here is the vibrance of the M1 iPad Pro with its mini LED display. It's funny because it's only a 12.9-inch display, but it keeps pulling my eyes to it because of just how much the colors pop. But obviously the clarity and the sharpness of 4K cannot be denied, as my eyes are drawn over to the 32-inch 4K display from HP, and comparing the two 32 inches, HDR makes a huge difference. The black levels on the LG are just not holding up. It's looking a little washed out. The colors are popping more in the 32-inch from HP, but then if you look at the mini LED display on the iPad, the colors are popping at a whole nother level. So it's like levels 1, 2, and 3. In terms of color and brightness, I think the mini LED on the iPad is definitely winning right now, as we look at some what looks like wish flowers, the kind that you blow. I don't know what you call those. We're seeing some flowers, more flowers here, and the colors are just very accurate on all three displays, I would say. Nothing looks unrealistic or ridiculously colored. But certainly looks like more saturation on the M1 iPad Pro. Okay, here we're getting a gorgeous shot of a wolf here in the woods. Beautiful, beautiful animal. But you know what I'm favoring? I'm actually favoring the HP in terms of color representation. When you're looking at all three of them together, the M1 iPad Pro looks a little too saturated, and the LG looks a little too washed out. The HP is actually balancing the colors really nice, so that I'm getting all the saturation that I want, but it's not looking too washed out. And then you could just see the brightness blows away the other two displays on the M1 iPad Pro. This thing can reach 1600 nits of brightness in HDR. But yeah, that's a quick look at the displays of all three. If I had to pick one, I would definitely pick the M1 iPad Pro, just blown up to a bigger size. But since that is not available right now, I'd really go with the HP. I know LG is one of the biggest names in display manufacturing. But if you're going with a standard display, maybe go with the LG. But I know that these two displays are around the same price, and the color accuracy, being color calibrated from the factory, as well as it being 4K and HDR 400 certified, you can't go wrong with the HP right here. I really think it's the best display here in terms of size and color representation. I did like the saturation and the colors on the HP a little bit more than the iPad, which is crazy because iPhone and iPad displays are known to be super color accurate. But I really do prefer the color calibration from the factory that HP is doing. And obviously the black levels are going to have to go to the M1 iPad Pro because they're just stupid. They're on a whole nother level. It's not even close. These other two displays simply don't hold up to the mini LED straight up turn off pixel black levels that the iPad Pro is capable of. So let me know if this video was helpful to you. I don't want to make it too long. Just hit the subscribe button, click the bell if this was interesting. And you know, for other folks who were maybe saying, is blooming even a thing on the M1 iPad Pro? Well, now you can look at it in comparison to another HDR monitor, something that's obviously not mini LED but does represent HDR 400 certification, and you can see if the blooming is something that's going to bother you. So thanks so much for watching, guys. Hit the like button, subscribe so you don't miss as we cover all things iPad Pro, Apple Talk, and Pro Audio. I'm Chris Grant Jr. It's the Grant and Geek Show.